Hello, my name is Mark Starr, and I'm going to be leading you on a brief tutorial of setting up an e-learning course today. We will be looking at 7 fundamental ideas that we need to hash through in order to make sure that our course is successful. The first of these is the actual definition of what is an e-course. We'll also be discussing how to use collaboration inside of an e-course, what that will look like, what tools we'll use, how the students will collaborate with those tools. We'll also discuss briefly the role of instructional design when it comes to working in an e-course. We'll explain how we can use technology to leverage and enhance the course itself. We'll discuss the best practices for using media, which can be very tricky. And finally, we'll look at ways to manage and teach in a virtual classroom. So, let's go ahead and get started. So what is e-learning? In their book, E-Learning and the Science of Instruction, Ruth Clark and Richard Meyer define e-learning as instruction delivered by a computer or CD-ROM, the internet or intranet, that includes the following: content relative to the learning objectives, instructional methods such as examples and practices, media elements, synchronous, asynchronous learning, or both, and something that builds knowledge linked to individual learning goals. These will be important to remember when we start our brainstorming skills. These are going to guide us in building this course. Next, I would like to discuss collaboration and the related tools that make it possible. In an e-learning course, collaboration is a very powerful way for students to learn through peer interactions and group projects. And there are a lot of tools out there that can help them achieve this. These tools can be used synchronously or asynchronously, and some of them can even be used for both. These tools include wikis, weblogs, sites like Google Docs, email, discussion forums, webinars, and instant messaging. It will be important as we brainstorm for our course to keep these tools in mind and how we can use them throughout the entire course. As I stated in the last section, students can use these collaborative tools to communicate with one another. It's a very important component of e-learning. They can use these tools often synchronously or asynchronously. For instance, students might wish to use wikis, Google Docs, instant messaging, or webinars to communicate with each other synchronously, or they can use email, blogs, wikis, discussion forums, Google Docs, and instant messaging to communicate with each other asynchronously as well. The discussion forums are a very important part of the course. Much of the in-depth back and forth that you would expect to find in a class is going to occur in these discussion forums. That's why it's so important when designing these forum questions to use thought-provoking questions that are going to really foster the critical thinking skills that we want to get out of the students in order to really get a nice conversation going between the students of the class. This is another important thing to keep in mind when considering, while we're brainstorming for the design of this course, how important these questions are. Instructional design models are a very important component when designing an e-learning course. Robert Branch and David Merrill, in their book Trends and Issues in Instructional Design and Technology, explain that instructional design models are procedures that systematically develop education and training materials. They look at the needs of the learner and guide the process in a step-by-step manner. There are many instructional design models to follow, with one of the most popular being the one created by Dick, Carey, and Carey. It very simply illustrates how you follow the path to effective instructional design. And that will be an important model for us to follow while we're brainstorming in order to make sure that we are on the right path and creating the best e-learning course that we can for our learners. During this course, we will be using a lot of different technology in order to enhance the learning that the students will be provided. As we discussed in our last section, a lot of this will come in the collaborative tools that are available out there, such as wikis, blogs, and webinars. But we will also encourage students to go out and try to discover their own Web 2.0 tools that they can use to make their own projects more engaging and even more fun. When we are brainstorming for this course, we need to keep this in mind, and we need to go out and do some research of our own on some innovative, creative, different tools that we can even recommend to the students as they're creating their projects and working their way through this course. The use of media in an online course can be an effective way to convey ideas, illustrate difficult to understand concepts, and assist students in visualizing the content that they are being given. However, media needs to be used carefully. Audio, visual, and images should not be inserted to simply entertain the participants. They need to be used to further inform the learner about the content in a way that does not overload the working memory of the students. When we go ahead and start our brainstorming session, we really need to keep this in mind. We want to insert media into the project to make it more engaging, but we don't want to do it in such a way that it takes away from what we are trying to teach them. Teaching and managing in a virtual course can be quite a shock for some teachers. They need to understand that they will no longer be in a course where they are the main source of information. It's going to be up to the students quite often to go out and find the information on their own. It really moves from a teacher-led environment into a student-centered environment. They will no longer be the sage on the stage, they'll more be the guide on the side. Their responsibilities will include more course design, discussion moderations, mentoring, and assessing, but less direct instruction. Some teachers don't like the idea of that, so in that case, e-learning teaching is probably not for them. When we're doing our brainstorming, we need to keep in mind that we need to make sure that teachers understand what their proper role will be in the course. Thank you.